On this episode of The Translators, we are talking to director Kris Merc.
So we have Jerry Diaz back in the studio, hopefully directing us to a trivia question.
Well, you are the Marty Scorsese of segues, Mike. Today's director-themed trivia question is, who was the first Latino director to win an Oscar?
Robert Rodriguez.
Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, he made like 10 Spy Kid films. At least one of them had to win something, right?
I'm going to say Edward James Olmos.
Ooh, you almost got it, Jamie. See what I did there? But the correct answer was Alfonso Cuarón.
Ooh.
In 2013, history was made at the Academy Awards as Mexican director Alfonso Cuarón became the first Latin American to win the Oscar for Best Director for the movie Gravity.
Oh, yeah, the Sandra Bullock space movie. I mean, no offense, but that does sound like the whitest movie ever.
Yeah, they should have casted a Latina to play that role. Imagine Sofia Vergara in space. Oh my God, I'm like the biggest star up here.
Or Rosie Perez in space. Oh, who you think you're looking at, Jupiter?
Oh, wait. What about Cardi B? Oh, you a wet-ass planet. Oh, grrr.
Again, I think we should stop doing this and start the show.
Translators. Lights, camera, action. Those are just some of the things you would say if you were a big shot movie director.
Does that mean today's episode is about...
Yes, you know what today's episode is about.
Oh, I know what today's episode is about.
Okay, well, let's just say the subject on 3, all right? Ready?
1,
2, 3. Latino directors.
porn stars.
Jamie, no. We're not doing an episode about porn stars. No one cares about your grandfather's filmography.
But Jamie Fernandez the first, a.k.a. Guillermo Grande, was a legend.
Speaking of legends, we are talking about Latino directors today. Latino directors in Hollywood have made plenty of strides, and some have even won Oscars.
Not as exciting as my abuelo's porn career, but I happen to be a movie aficionado, all right? I've literally seen them all. Try me.
First up, we have Alfonso Cuarón, who we earlier learned won an Oscar in 2013 for Gravity, but then he won again in 2019 for Roma.
Oh, yes, that movie about Italian tomatoes. I love that one.
What are you talking about? Jerry, continue.
Okay, so in 2015, Alejandro González Iñárritu won Best Director for The Revenant.
Oh, that's the movie where Leonardo DiCaprio was covered in bear guts?
Yeah, and in 2014, Iñárritu won for Birdman.
Oh, the documentary story about the time Lil Wayne kissed Birdman on the lips.
What? No, Jamie. Do you know anything about these movies?
Anyway, in 2018, Guillermo del Toro won Best Director and Best Picture for The Shape of Water.
Oh, that's that movie where that mute woman smashes a fish.
Actually, yeah, that is what happens in that film.
Booyah! Movie aficionado in the house.
Anyway, even though there has been some awesome Latinos who have won Oscars, we still have a long way to go in terms of Hollywood strides.
A study from the University of Southern California analyzed 100 of the highest grossing films ranging from 2007 to 2018 and discovered,
as of 2020, there's only been 4.5% of Latino-speaking roles within Hollywood.
That's why it's important to have Latino directors. USC did another study that found that when a Latino director was attached to a film, the percentage of Latino characters on screen increased from 4% to 13%. So less Latino directors means less Latino actors.
It's a domino effect, which is a sad irony because Latinos usually love dominoes.
Yeah, it's true.
Anything else we missed, Jerry?
Yes. Of all the films mentioned in USC's study, about 25% had criminal roles, with nearly 70% of those being gang members or drug traffickers. And of those roles, less than 10% of them were educated Latino characters. Yo, where's our Sherlock Holmes, Holmes?
Actually, Sherlock Holmes was addicted to cocaine, so...
Wow, we can't have anything, can we?
Now here's our interview with director Kris Merc.
We can start, right? And, you know, when we do these interviews, we like to start from the beginning, right? We like to ask guests.
Yeah.
When did they first gain a passion for their current profession?
Yeah.
In this case, it's directing.
Right.
Talking about directing. How did your passion for directing start?
I tell the story. It used to be like a story I wouldn't tell people. Now I tell it a lot. But like, I think for me, it really started, and I kind of go back to family because like my uncle was kind of like the king of bootlegs in Puerto Rico. Like he was just the man. Like, yeah, he was like this avid collector dude. And like, he kind of like he had such a chill vibe. He wasn't really trying to like work a day job or any of that. And he had a real strong passion for film, and he would have like a lot of cassette tapes, and he would find like a bootleg of every movie you can imagine he would have. And so he could do like kind of like movie nights at our like my grandma's house in Puerto Rico, and it was like a little CTR TV, but like the atmosphere of like a Latino home, like when in Puerto Rico it smells a specific way in the Caribbean, and like I don't know, it has a warmth, but like, because it's quiet out there, you hear the coquis and you hear like the rustles of the vibe, but like it's also like kind of dimly lit, because I don't know why electricity in Puerto Rico, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like
thing, yeah.
it's like almost golden light.
Absolutely.
And so we would watch these movies, and then they would like do popcorn, and it was like kind of like, my family's messy. Every family's messy, really, but like my family, whenever a movie kind of came on, like, oh, here, we're going to like sit down and this is what we're doing. And movie tickets in Puerto Rico were like $4 when I was growing up. So like, we just hit the movie theaters a lot. And somehow I think I started to connect love and film together mentally, because like any other time in our lives, we were either arguing or there was like some messiness happening in our lives. But for some reason, with cinema, there was like this passion or this love that kind of came through in our family. And so I don't know, for me, I'm always like searching for that, I guess,
Even the description of that is cinematic, right? Like
I saw it.
imagining like in Puerto Rico, outdoor cinema with the family, with all the other stuff going on. That to me, that's like a painting in my head already.
But even the smell, like he said, there's a specific smell when you're there.
Especially in
Chris,
in my house.
Chris, I left the room. Like I feel like we're gonna have to put in the budget like the reenactment of the answer you just gave. But my question is, when you were pursuing your career of directing, your family, what was their reaction? Were they skeptical?
Oh yeah, they thought I was
back?
crazy. They thought I was nuts. I think like my family never really valued, like they cared about the arts. And like you could tell that they cared about cinema, and like they cared about even animation, actually, because like they were obsessed with Woody Woodpecker of all things, and the Flintstones, and they, it's interesting. The moment that flipped for me was when I was like 10. I was in Puerto Rico and I was playing Super Mario Brothers 3, which is it's such a vivid memory, and that's like one of my favorite games ever, right? And I finally beat the game. Like, you know what I mean? Back then you couldn't save, so you have to kind of roll through the whole game. And I finally get to the ending and I see the credits, right? And my grandma, I'm talking to my grandma, and I'm like, oh, one day I want to make stuff like this. And my grandma was like, oh, that's not a job. And then like, but because I was a kid, I was looking at the credits, I was like, well, somebody made it. Like that, it didn't come out of nowhere, so that must be a job, Like, so like my understanding of like that these things get made kind of clarified at that point. And I think like for my mom, I think my mom and my dad had like a complicated relationship, like it wasn't like they're divorced, they're not together or any of that. And I think like it was a hard time when we were kind of going to like when I was going to college, or in that point in my life, was really, really difficult because one, we were kind of homeless at the time, so like my dad had left my mom and we kind of got kicked out of our home, which is kind of crazy to think about, you know what I mean? And like my whole understanding of the arts at that time was like, oh, like I applied to all the top like art schools like SVA, Pratt, SCAD, and I got into a number of them, But then the economics of it were like so crazy where I was like, oh, there's no way I can afford this at this point because, my life was falling apart, And so I ended up going to UB, which has like kind of like gave me like this grant, like a bunch of grants, and like, what was that thing called back in the day? FAFSA or whatever? Like, remember you had
FAFSA,
you had to fill out forms or whatever? Yeah.
FAFSA.
FAFSA, yeah. They gave me like the most. So like, that was like the way to go. And I remember my mom being like, you know, during that time period when my parents were arguing all the time, my dad was really stern and really about like me getting into law. Cause like my dad is actually like kind of like low key a gangster. Like he's done a lot in his life for sure, and like interesting shit. But like total asshole. He's like a dick. But I mean, I hope he doesn't hear this because I don't want to get defamation lawsuit. Like, yo, you called me a dick on a
No,
podcast?
we're sending a copy right after this.
Right,
He's getting the audio.
But like he had like a plan, like a vision for like the family, you know what I mean? And he really needed like a lawyer in the family for the plan, you know what I mean? And I was a smart kid academically, but like I wasn't like, I don't feel no passion towards law, you know what I'm saying? If anything, I don't even believe in that shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
It's getting spicy here. Kris Merc does not
I'm
believe in the
above the
law.
yeah.
I create the law. I create it.
Yeah. So I'm getting really deep, my bad. But like, I mean, I'm trying to give an honest answer about it. Like, I feel like my mom at some point started not to care what I did, you know? And she was like, you should just be happy, you know? But my dad was just like, no, like a tyrant almost. Like, and I'm not paying for anything related to art. I'm not doing anything. Like, if you go pursue that, I'm not even gonna, you're cut off kind of energy.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
At that point in time where
Yeah.
you're at there, did you feel more pressure to dive in, or did it give you a little bit like second guessing in that point in your life where your dad is acting in that stance?
I really honestly didn't care. Like I felt like honestly I was just like, Dad, I'm the one that's gonna have to live my life, you know, like, so I have to decide how I want to live it. Like if I'm day to day gonna be happy, you know, like, I mean, work takes up a lot of our lives, you know what I'm saying? So the way I looked at it, at least the way our world works, you know what I mean? Like labor is a big chunk of your life, you know? So I might as well be happy doing it. So I don't know. I just wanted to do what I felt was right. And I also didn't feel like I would be good at anything else, you know what I mean? Like the practical, like I'm not good at office culture or any of that other stuff.
The water cooler talk.
Yeah, I'm bad at that. Like you put me in like a corporation type scenario, and I just fail. Like I don't do well in those
Get me out of this cubicle.
Yeah. I did a job once, MTV. Shout out to you, with MTV. And I had to work in a cubicle, and I was like, "Yo, what? Like they got cubicles at MTV?" And it was
to be a rad place.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be cool. And
At
like,
least be open space, but you
I thought it was gonna be like an episode of Euphoria, like, like yo, the CD's doing coke. Oh, whoa! Everything's neon colored. Like, whoa! But no, it was just a cubicle. It's like
Here's some files.
Kris, you can't put any art up. All right, no art. It's just bare.
So it was like a wild experience, that too. Like the idea of corporate art too. And I don't know. Yeah, it also like kind of, it just makes your brain work differently when you're like that routine. I just couldn't do it. Yeah.
So fast forward.
Yeah.
Fast forward. You're at a point. What was that first gig that you were like, oh shit, I'm good at this, and this is happening right now.
Like I could do this shit, right?
I ain't working from a cubicle, man. Like I'm on set.
Oh, the first time I went on set, oh my God, holy crap. Trial by fire, honestly. I was an art director for a lot of commercials, and I was like one of the most coveted ones, you know, at the time, because I worked at all the major spots. Like, you know, I was doing boards. I was really good at it. I had a high win rate. I was getting called up all the time. So my career trajectory was just like, basically I became like a really successful, I don't even like saying that word, but like, you know, I was a working like art director basically. And somebody kind of made the connection at a studio, like, oh, would you be down to direct? And I was like, holy shit. Like it almost took someone else to say it for me to be like, oh yeah, maybe I should pursue that, because it seemed like almost so unattainable that like I didn't know like the practicalities of it, or like when would I start directing my own stuff. Like I was fairly young, like I was like 26 at the time, you know? So it was a radical place. Like this place was in Soho, and it felt more like a fun club, like kind of like a funhouse vibe where, you know, I was taking naps, like in the middle of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like if I needed to like think about something, I would just go on a couch and like take a nap and then wake up and be like refreshed and be like, I'm gonna go make something, you know? And then like, that was the vibe of the culture of that place.
We do the same thing in our podcast. We were just at one point, we're like, we're just gonna let's just take a nap, guys, real quick.
Yeah, we're old though.
And there's no productivity.
I wanna. You made a really point about me. Was there any, like, in retrospect, is there any imposter syndrome, like, in that aspect of it, or was it you felt like no, it's not?
Yeah, when I was on set the first time, I felt like it went by, like it was such a chaotic feeling. Like it's being on set is chaotic. It's like trying to control chaos, and like the more you direct, the more you can like kind of start to understand that chaos so well. Like that's really kind of like the muscle you gain when you're like on set a lot. Because the first time I was on set, I couldn't discern everything that was happening completely. And somebody gave me some good advice where it's like, all you have to do is look at the monitor. You know what I mean? And that's like gives you clarity, because then all you have to focus on is like, this image is really what matters, and then everything else is a function of that. So like that was like, it was kind of like a way to like zen out. Cause yeah, the first time was a mess. I was like, oh shit, like I thought I wasn't gonna work again. Like honestly, that's how crazy it was. But then the spot got mad accolades. So like it also taught me another lesson, which was like, the process is messy and the result is what matters. You know what I'm saying? So like everyone was like angry at me on that shoot. The first time I was a director, I was learning. It was a trial by fire. But then because the spot came out hot, then everyone's like, yo, that's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, it justified all that. So like it kind of taught me that as long as you end the process and you have something to show for it, then people will respect you.
I mean, I think that was the same philosophy you had for your prom night, right? The process was messy, but the end result was good. Right?
Jerry has research for that. That's inaccurate.
What Jamie's saying is correct.
So we were talking about earlier, you know, people kind of maybe pushing you away from it. But did you have any mentors during this time that kind of were helping you move forward, or was it kind of like, look, I was doing this on my own, I found my own kind of path?
I was blessed to have a lot of people support me, for sure. Like I had supporters, but I never had a formal mentor. And I always wish I did, because it would have been nice to have somebody like almost guide you or something. But at the same time, I think it worked to my benefit that I didn't have a mentor, because I almost had like a more like cocky attitude about it, where it's like, well, nobody's mentoring me, I'm doing this on my own. You know what I mean? Like then I got to create the philosophy, I got to create the, you know what I'm saying? So it became more like forging the path for me, because it is really weird to not be part of like a system and then get into a system. You know, like when we think of like the Hollywood system, the directing system, like, you know,
you feel like it's an exclusive club.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, I'm in this club? Okay.
Yeah.
Like security see me better?
Yeah, like you don't have like, there's not really like a clear path, you know, you almost have to forge it. Like it's like being like with a machete and like cutting through, and you have to make the road, and like, you know, unless someone already made the road for you, it's like that's what it felt like a lot of times, you know. So,
but once you get that opportunity and once you get in there, that's when talent wins out, right?
Oh yeah,
and
I think so.
The you know, the cliche expression is like, just kick open the door.
Yeah, no, I'm about that. Yeah, I think a lot of people should kick down doors for sure. Like, I think
I'm a knocker.
What happens when they don't?
Because I knock very gently. I'm very like.
The door knock.
I don't mean to be a stereotype. I go in through the window.
Yeah. This is true.
So I read an interview that you did where you say that you're really interested in pushing the Latin narrative forward. And so question number one, what does that mean for you? And secondly, how does your culture shape your work?
Oh, those are great. I mean, I think it shapes like my identity, the way I've grew up and the way I am has just been like influential to like my body of work. Like what I do, I aspire for is for it to feel like more effortless and like more like, and when I say that, it's like, I don't want it to ever feel like we're checking boxes when we make our stuff, you know? Like, I think there's like this weird tendency within, just like how it all works, where we feel like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes if it's either, I don't know who it is or how the world works sometimes with that stuff, but it does feel sometimes like there gets a stiffness and a roteness, like, oh, what defines like a Latino show or a Latinx show? Like, you know what I mean? And for me, it's like, I don't know, let's just make stuff that is cool and engaging and like interesting. And it doesn't necessarily need to be about us just being Latino. It's just like we simply are, you know, and it's just like we're there, and it's not like us explaining ourselves to people or giving context or doing the same kind of jokes about like chancletas or some shit. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like
Jaime, that means your next project, no chancleta.
I retired
You had a
chocolate
feature
jokes
script.
in 2011, man.
That's still too late.
I mean, a good chancleta joke works, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
No, I actually don't like chocolate jokes.
but like we got him. I feel like we hit the peak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
I think you can only go so
Yeah.
far with it.
I mean, we could try to make like a chancleta in space, and then that would be like a whole new
yes.
level. Like,
Hold on,
What's the
let me
rule?
get a pen. Let me get a pen.
Yeah. What's the rule? If you come up with an idea with us, we will have to work together.
oh yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Chocolate in space.
Chancleta in
fucking
space. Throw a
space
dog in there.
shuttle.
Throw a dog in there.
Listen,
Dog, chancleta.
Airbus.
and
Chris,
and a
as
shark.
long as it's an authentic chancleta, you know what I mean?
This is true.
Okay,
Speaks
and
to
we tell
something.
we tell authentic stories.
Space bud, and then
Right.
in a chancleta.
The chancleta in
shape.
space is what, like the Death Star, right? It's gotta be, right? Like it's gonna destroy something, right? It's gonna destroy you
Can
emotionally.
you imagine your mother with Darth Vader's powers?
Abuela Vader. Yeah.
Abuela Vader.
Okay.
But like,
Yeah.
let me get back to the answer
Yes,
real quick,
sorry.
just to get it more like tuned in, because like for me, that like I worked on this short film Nuevo Rico, right? And that happened recently, and that's had a long, good run on the festival circuit. It's gotten a lot of attention.
Congrats to
and
Yeah,
we're
congrats.
developing into a feature, which has been like a really cool, exciting process. And I think what's really like I've noticed that's really appealing to people is that even though that's a very like Latinx driven project, nothing about it feels forced, or nothing about it feels like it's trying to sell you on it. It's just simply like, yo, here it is. It's cool. It's interesting. And for me, that, you know, that's what's cool. Like, make shit exciting, and then people get into it. And so I want our stories to have that quality, because like, you know, like when I go to see Black Panther, I'm like going to see Black Panther because that shit is dope. You know, like I'm like, oh, that's a dope movie. That's a Marvel movie. Or Shang-Chi recently too. And like when I see those movies, they just have like a cool quality to them, you know, or like, so I don't know. That's kind of like my headspace about it. Yeah.
This question here.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about your successes.
I got a lot of
But
losses.
how do you take on rejection?
Oh man, I try to have a thick skin, you know, because I think like anytime, if you want to like do anything, you gotta take like 10 no's to get the one yes. You know what I mean? So like rejection and failing is so crucial and part of anything. Like even like when, you know, sometimes I'll have something that people perceive as a success, and I'll be like, that's actually technically a failure because it didn't like fulfill the vision that I had originally or something. And you know, you start, but that's interesting too, because like at some point, like even your losses are like kind of like sort of become wins in a weird way, you know what I'm saying? Because like you're like, every time you're like kind of leveling up, you know, your first failures don't go anywhere, but then like as you keep leveling up, the things that even you feel aren't like the ones, you know, start to kind of like, because you're getting so much better that even those start to, and then like I don't know like if there's a plateau for that, you know, like I hope not. I feel like with directing, it's like a constant learning that happens, because every time you research a story, you're like learning about something new. You're learning, you're always investigating, you're always like trying to find a new story. So like I hope it's like, I don't know, I think it keeps me curious and keeps me young somehow, because I'm always like searching for something, you know, like I'm never like, oh, you know what I mean? I don't know.
All right, so Chris, let's kind of just throw out
Yeah.
some of what Chris has done.
Some
right?
humble bragging. Humble bragging.
He's won a SXSW Film Festival Jury Award.
It's South by Southwest. Yeah,
Oh, right.
Sorry about
I
that.
have it short in there.
You should have spoken to Jerry first before you pronounced
I was
South
gonna
by
tell you.
Southwest.
Like short and everything.
I was gonna.
Plus, this is upside down, this card. You won a South by Southwest
There's
Film
nothing on there.
Festival Jury Award 2019 for your music video Palante, which was kind of based on what happened in Puerto Rico with the hurricane.
Yeah.
You also won a 2021 award, South by Southwest, for your animated short film Nuevo Rico.
Yeah.
We spoke about, yep.
Dope.
And also, I'm just keep listing. You've been like the go-to director lately for like stand-up specials. Hannibal Buress, Michael Che, Sam J, Phoebe Robinson, Ida Rodriguez. Shout out. You even directed these recent Corona commercials, right?
Yeah.
With Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Where like, it's not
dope.
players, playa.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That was fun.
How do you? Okay, this is like a big question, but it's like, how does your directing philosophy change from being in these different spaces?
You know, it's crazy because people always wonder, like, yo, how do you direct such different styles of work all the time? And I think there's like in America, there's like this idea of the auteur. You know what I'm saying? And there's actually like some people who were against that back when it was kind of being created, like this idea of like, oh, the singular vision. I mean, what auteur really means is that you write and direct it, right? But that it can only authentically come from your voice when you make something, right? And while I do respect like having an auteur quality, I also kind of like, because I'm so mixed media, I feel like for me it's more about exploration and exploring and discovery. And I kind of abide more by the theory of bricolage, which is more about intermixing. And I think that's such a purely like, that's a really like strong Latinx Latino thing, you know what I'm saying? Where like we are a very mixed people. There's a lot of fluidity in our identity. There's a lot of pollination that happens in our identity that makes it hard for us to kind of like even explain it sometimes. And when I do mixed media, because it's almost like a physical manifestation of that. So like for me, I like to explore different things. And like when I used to be more based on drama. Like drama was like my big thing. Like I used to love drama, everything. Palante is like technically like a drama, right? A very serious thing, right? And I got into comedy, and at first I was like, yo, like I didn't even tell people I was in comedy when I was doing all these comedy works, because I was looking at it almost like as a filmmaker and like trying to elevate that medium and try to give voice to the comedians more, because I feel like there was a roteness to comedy specials that I was seeing. And I actually researched it and studied it. And then I was like, oh, like they didn't really change too many of the rules from like the 80s, you know, like you could kind of see that they set up the rules and then like, oh, there hasn't been too many like tweaks, you know? And then I started developing this like strong relationship to comedy where I was like, oh yeah, like it has like drama and comedy kind of work together, you know? And like, it kind of like heals your soul. And like, sometimes you need comedy and then sometimes you need drama, and like the way they interconnect is somehow. So like I started looking at it like an echo relationship where like, oh, when I work on comedy, I'm getting better at timing for drama too. And drama is getting better because of the comedy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like now they're starting to work together, you know, because I'm mastering like both separately almost. And then then once I get those masteries, I can kind of interweave them better, you know? So that's kind of like how that came about. Yeah.
And this generation of comics is like, you know, George Carlin probably be like, keep the camera on me. I don't want no.
Oh yeah.
I don't want no crazy stuff in there.
Yeah,
You know, now it's like, yo,
yeah.
let's mix it up.
Yeah,
Like the Hannibal
yeah,
Buress
yeah.
special was very unique.
Oh, I love that special. He was awesome.
And just the way you did
Ida's was cool too.
Ida
man.
was
Fighting
Ida was
Words.
like became
Fighting
a
Words.
documentary, and it was like emotional.
Yeah.
And then hit it with the comedy.
But they're like films, though.
yeah.
You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They're films.
Yeah.
They're films of the stand-up. You know,
Yeah.
of these actual artists.
Yeah.
which
Yep.
is what-
Yeah.
You know, you don't see that in stand-up specials.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Kudos,
respect
man.
the artist. Yeah,
Absolutely.
like, I
You can
respect
see
the
that.
comic. Like for me, the comic is like such an interesting figure, and like I've even looked at now. Like I've gotten so deep into comedy now that I'm like even buying like books about like specific things, like the tradition of clowns, tricksters in culture. You know what I mean? Like I got a book right now that's like Clowns and Tricksters, and it goes through like the tradition of clowns through like the anthropological like way they worked in different societies, you know, and the value that they had.
Now you'd be like in the circus, take him to Barnum and Bailey. You'd be like,
Yeah.
yo, these clowns and the anthropological stuff they doing right now.
I'm trying to flex with clowns, dog. I'm trying to do. Yo, I'm gonna be like, yo, what's good? Yo, you struck the Soleil? Or
I
what?
tried to type in 1 or 2 things. My computer froze.
Your computer froze?
Yeah, it's too much.
Chris, this has been super
Yes.
duper dope.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so we always have to end it where advice wise.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
we are all about creative hugel. So what is your advice about maintaining, creating, and have the whole process of the creative hugel for these up and coming directors?
Yo, it's crazy because now I'm like finding out that I've been inspiring other directors to like, you know, pursue it or like look at my work or like things like that. And that's become something I've become more aware of recently. And for me, I think it's just like being truthful to your voice is like the most important thing. Like, you know, like just be honest and earnest about what you want to make and like let that be the guiding force to make the stuff you want to make, because the only thing that any director can really offer anybody in any sense is really like a POV that only they have, you know what I mean? And like it takes time to even discover like what that is, you know what I mean? But like living your life and like being truthful to your life, don't like, I would say like directors shouldn't like try to like force themselves to fit the system. Like really is what makes you unique that's going to make you the director you're supposed to be, you know what I mean? So like you kind of have to lean into like your difference. I feel like it's more like, what do I have that makes me so different and like lets me see the world in this way, you know? And then that will differentiate itself a lot, you know? And then people notice it more.
Thank you. But before we, thank you. No, because it's real.
The best response for
It's real because that sometimes when you're up and coming and you're trying to fit in or you're trying to get something, you feel like, how do I adapt myself? No, own who you are, create your voice, and go in there.
Do what you know.
But we're not going to end the podcast with that last question. We got something fun to do.
Yeah,
Jamie, please introduce the segment that we're going to do with Kris Merc.
Okay, so we wanted to do a quick segment with you called Latinx Reboot.
Oh yeah, let's reboot it all.
We say
I'm ready to reboot all of it.
To the right dude.
I feel like 10 years from now I'm gonna have a button in my office that I press, and then like a bunch of executives like wake up and like, all right, the reboot started. This is gonna
First one, AirBud. Let's go. Jamie loves this segment, by the way. It's his favorite
this is
one.
cool. This is
great.
cool.
Everything's being rebooted now, so let's do Latinx Reboot.
I'm gonna do it.
So yeah, we say an existing movie, and we got all pitch kind of get into
yeah.
the Latinx reboot of it.
I love that.
We can even cast it if you want. If you want to throw in cast people.
We are right now pitching this. We're talking about all pitching it, so we're pitching it. We're gonna give you the movie,
cool.
and you're gonna pitch it to us.
I love that.
This is our escalator pitch. So
And Jerry's
did I
here
say
for
that right?
research, just in case you need a little bit of budget, whatever. Yeah.
So first movie. What would the Latinx reboot be of Titanic?
Ooh.
Right?
Were there even Latinos on the Titanic?
It would be on the lower deck.
I think they were. They were in the band.
All the way in the lower deck.
It would be like somebody like trying to buy the ticket to the Titanic, and like they didn't like get in it, and then
Movie
like
takes
it worked
place
out.
in the kitchen. The kitchen the whole time.
The kitchen, yeah.
the whole
They're making all
time.
the food.
That's right.
And they're having their own little booze cruise on the side, right?
It would be like somebody being like, "Oh yeah, don't go into that iceberg," and it just saves the whole ship.
Be like, bueno, I don't know.
I told you. You don't see.
Frío.
Huela said to turn around. Huela said to turn around.
Like, I don't fuck with the cold. We're not going there. Go to the Caribbean instead.
Half the movies, that one character be like, I told you see that? We didn't hit it, yo.
Or they could be the band. They could be part of the band. You know?
that's true.
Like a
Band was
perico
like, yo, we
limpiado.
gonna keep playing. Like, so they just doing their little salsa hits, playing all their hits and shit as the Titanic goes down.
Only if it was Latino, they would be like, the boat is going down. Where's the band? They're like the first ones on the boat.
They're performing on the raft. They're performing from the raft.
Yeah.
They're like, yo, estamos aquí. Vamos
Guys,
a ver.
No, we gotta keep the mood. We gotta keep the mood alive.
I told you.
We're going out in style. Fuck it.
I think we'd be able to swim though, right? I think there are a lot of people like they wouldn't DiCaprio. It was like, yo, it's cold. It's like, yo, swim, do something, doggy paddle. I think we've been able. A lot of us. That you just see a bunch of people on the boats and a bunch of Latinos just like, yo, what's up? We'll get there before you.
And one thing for sure, we would have put like 6 people on that door.
Yo, you guys just made me think of something.
Stack 'em
Like, all right.
No, they would have fit on that door.
human Jenga, right?
Like a concho in DR, bro. They would have just been on that.
You know what is funny about Titanic? It's like to white people, that's a passionate relationship, and I'm like, that's just my every relationship. they're like Rose and Jack. Oh my God, like feelings. You know, like white people are like feelings.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like that's just every relationship, dogs.
It's on a boat.
What are you talking about?
It's on a
What?
boat.
That was like my last cruise, dogs.
All right.
Thank you, Kris.
Damn, we learned a lot about directing and
God bless. I hope so. man.
your journey. And
Thank you, man.
This was great. And we had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It was really cool. I love the vibe. Thank you. Bless.
And that was another great episode. Thank you, director Kris Merc.
And Jerry Diaz for being our researcher.
And I guess now we got to do what we always do at the end of the show. We got our little muggies, little drinky. Oh. Oh, yeah, this is some really delicious warm water. See you next time.